Is disease even real? Or is it a sign that we're out of balance with our souls, our emotions, our bodies, and the planet? Today's guest, Lisa Warner, is an amazing trailblazer who healed herself of cancer by simply tuning in to what her body's wisdom said. She's got a great book, Simplicity of Self-Healing, and we're going to find out all about it on today's episode. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the great mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and life and what we're doing here on planet Earth at this time of the Great Awakening. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I love having these conversations week after week and bringing in my friends to share conversation about the things that we face in our lives and how we can face it with more grace, more wisdom, more peace, more presence. And today's topic, really thinking about redefining what we agree to, redefining what we know to be true based on our inner guidance, our inner knowing, and the wisdom of our souls, rather than whatever ideas are part of the groupthink of our culture. And most preciously in this conversation is the importance of removing our agreement with the idea of disease and realizing and remembering our own ability to rebalance ourselves, to heal ourselves, to reconnect ourselves to our bodies, minds, hearts, spirits, and the planet, and to be in conscious choice and conscious relationship with ourselves in a higher vibration. And so there's really no better person I can think of to have this conversation with than Lisa Warner. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I've gotten to know Lisa really well over the last 6 months. It's been an amazing journey of deep dive in a private community and getting to know Lisa and really well. And it's been so delightful. It's so much more fulfilling than social media and just such a wonderful opportunity to deep dive. And so I can, with total confidence, share that Lisa is a visionary. She's an awakener. She's self-healing trailblazer. And she has always had that innate ability to perceive the world more holistically than her environment. And that gift helped her deepen her conscious awareness of the body's incredible ability to heal itself. And that knowledge got tested when she found herself facing cancer. And then she got to move through that experience by calling on what she knew to be true inside, working with her soul. And she wrote a book to talk about her journey called The Simplicity of Self-Healing. And it's now in its 10th anniversary edition. She's also one of the beautiful experts featured in the Inside Effects documentary put together by my other friend, Keith Leon. And I'm really, really excited about sharing some of that with you guys as well. And so really the message is that we are able to become masterful healers of our own bodies and lives when we remember we have the power to do that and we stop believing the groupthink. So where do you want to dive into this story, Lisa? Wherever you want to start, let's just dive in.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Interesting question. Well, I guess when I made my decision to, once I realized what was happening to my, with my body. Once I found myself facing cancer, I looked at what pathways were available. And, I had seen other people who had faced cancer, and I watched them go through these processes. And, I watched the hair fall out. I watched all of the suffering, like the physical sickness and all of this. And I just thought, wow, that's really, really scary to me. And I thought, that doesn't really look like the path to healing for me. And so I made up my mind that I was not going to go that medical route, because it did not seem to me, it seemed like healing shouldn't be scary and it shouldn't be difficult. And because I had watched my own body heal from all kinds of things, cuts and breaks and sprains and, all kinds of things. It was completely obvious. If you break a bone, it heals. Like, so it was obvious that the body is designed to heal itself. And I thought, if the body is designed to heal all of these other things, why wouldn't it heal this? Why wouldn't I be able to just rebalance this? And it was really, really clear to me that because I was so far off balance, my emotional state, I was really, really, really depressed and stressed. And it was clear to me that if I wasn't all depressed and stressed, that my body wouldn't be doing what it was doing. So I knew there was a connection between my emotional state and my physical state. So I thought, chemo is certainly not going to help my emotional state. And I thought, you know, so that's not my answer, going that route. The medical model doesn't deal with your soul. It doesn't deal with your mind. It doesn't deal with the whole being. It's only looking at the body. And I thought, I need to fix my whole being. Like, I need to be able to bring myself back into a state of wholeness and happiness where I feel good being me in this world that doesn't feel good to me. So
Mhm.
that became my approach. And I started to learn about how do I bring my emotional state back into balance? How do I fix the energy of all of this? Because I could see that there's energy underlying everything. Everything is energy. We've all been taught that. So I started studying in that direction, and I started to, dive deep inside and look at what was actually off balance and learn to rebalance myself from the inside out. And during that journey is when I suddenly realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm not being attacked by some disease. My body is doing exactly what it is divinely designed to do under the circumstances I've been providing. And once I changed the emotional input, then the body just healed itself like it's designed to do. And if I can do that, everybody can do that.
Yeah, and it's powerful. I'm thinking right now of Dr. Zach Bush, and he was talking about how viruses are kind of like weeds, and weeds show up in nature to rebalance the soil. They actually have a purpose. They come in to when you've been over harvesting the soil, so to speak, and it's out of balance, the weeds come in to rebalance the soil so that it can harvest crops again, so you can grow things again. And when you keep removing the weeds, then nature tries harder to put the weeds back because the weeds are needed in order to rebalance the system. And he equated that with viruses. So, like, viruses are like weeds. And so they're just there to rebalance the system. They're not, against you. And when you treat it like it's against you and you try to eradicate it, then you're actually sort of getting in the way of Mother Nature's medicine and her way of rebalancing, because we do live in nature. We live in Mother Nature's bodies, right? So I think that literally there's nobody on earth that could argue that we're made of earth. So let's just say if we're made of earth, then, which we know we are, because what else would we be made of? Then Earth is our teacher. She's our soil. She's our nutrients. She's our guide. And she teaches us through the body.
Mhm. Yes. And, our bodies are designed to help us stay alive. The body is intelligent, and the body is programmed to be the temple, the house of our soul. And it is designed to last for hundreds of years. However, when we are programmed to work against the body, we really can't last for hundreds of years. And so we start to realize that there are biological laws, just like there are universal laws, like the law of attraction, the law of karma, the law of one. All of these are universal laws, which are like the science of how the universe actually works. And there are biological laws about how our bodies function. And unfortunately, the medical system is not based on biological law. So it's based, I call it, on pharmaceutical law. There's a pill for every problem. And, that's really not the solution. The solution is to understand that our bodies are not the problem. They're never the problem. There's never anything wrong with our bodies. Our bodies are doing exactly what they're designed to do, given the emotional and the input. Every thought we think is being transmitted through the neurological system through the body. So the body is responding to every single thought we think. And if we're thinking like, I'm not okay, what's wrong with me? I'm stressed. I don't know where my money's coming from. I don't know what to do. Then these are all thought patterns that are very off balance. And then the body tries to go, well, here, let me help you through this crisis. And then when the body starts acting abnormally, we just look only at the body and don't realize that our emotional input is directly influencing the function of the body.
Yeah, I actually realized that in my own experience, my audience is familiar with, where I was in a marriage for 20 years and I didn't like conflict. So I tried to bypass the conflict to create peace, which is an artificial peace, because I wasn't really dealing with any of the underlying things I was actually feeling. I was taking not feeling pills and then drinking a lot of wine too, which is counterintuitive. But, I was like, anything to numb this,
Yeah.
anything to numb this out. And then I realized, after I left, I had about 6 months later, I went to my doctor and she said, you have like a giant grapefruit sized cyst on your right ovary. And when I went to, before I had it taken out, I went to a Reiki practitioner, and she's like, this thing is filled up with resentment and anger. And I could admit, like, all of that. Like, yeah, I was using my womb to store pain, which many women have been taught, most women on the planet have been taught to store pain inside our wombs and inside our bodies.
Mhm.
And that there isn't a safe way for us to express how we really feel or to express our truth. And so we stifle ourselves, and we end up really like a stagnant pond in the middle of the forest, that lost its connection to the source river, right? It gets really murky and yucky in there, right? And that causes our experience of what we call disease. Is that also like what your kind of understanding is about this experience?
Yeah, there are these biological laws were discovered by a gentleman named Dr. Hammer in Germany in the 1980s. And the way he found it was that he received a phone call in the middle of the night that his teenage son had been shot and wounded. And for 3 months, the son battled for his life, but finally lost that battle. And after the death of his son, 3 months later, Dr. Hammer came down with testicular cancer, and his wife simultaneously came down with breast cancer. And he thought, wait a second, I'm a perfectly healthy man. I'm a doctor. I know all about this stuff. You know, what happened here? And he thought, this can't possibly be a coincidence that we've both come down with cancer at the same time. And so he went to the men in his practice who had been diagnosed with testicular cancer. And he asked them, what was going on in your life right before you got your diagnosis? And every single one of them had faced the loss of a child. And he was like, wait a second, that can't possibly be a coincidence. And he talked to the people, all the people that had the same types of cancer, whether it was breast cancer or pancreatic cancer or prostate cancer, whatever it was. Each of those groups of people had experienced the same type of emotional conflict. And he thought, wait a second, there's absolutely a correlation here. And so he started asking them, well, can I take a CAT scan? Can I check out what's going on in your brain so I can start to make some sense of all of this? And he started to realize that, oh, okay, well, all of the men who had testicular cancer, there was a spot over here, whatever it was. And, the women with breast cancer, a spot over here, and pancreatic cancer, a spot back here. And so he started to realize, oh, here's where the spot is on the brain, and here's what part of the brain controls which part of the body. And then he realized that the spot on the brain would look different depending on what phase of the process the person was in. That if it was right at the beginning of the process, the spot would look like a bullseye, like a pebble in a pond where it would circle out. So he would see something that had rings on it. And he could say, oh, well, this is the part of the brain that controls this, and this is the emotional conflict, and it would correlate precisely. And then depending on how far along the person was in their healing process, that spot would look a little bit different. And so he got to where he could, just from a CAT scan, he could tell every single illness anybody had ever had throughout their life with 100% accuracy, anything that was still going on in their bodies. And he mapped all of it out. And he realized that there is a biological purpose to every single thing, that there's a rhyme and a reason why the body does what it does. And he realized that after that initial, like, oh my gosh, the initial shock, like for him getting the phone call in the middle of the night, it was like, oh, yikes, a shock. Then the body starts a process that is designed to help the person biologically through the shock. So for the testicular cancer, it would mean that if he was looking at the loss of an offspring, then biology dictates that if you lose an offspring, you need to replace the offspring for the survival of the species. So the increase in cells in the testicles would be to make it easier to create another offspring. And so then once the son passed away, now there was really, he went into healing, and all of those extra cells were now no longer needed. And so there was pain, there was swelling, there was redness, there was, whatever the symptoms were that he had. And he started to understand, like, oh, so the body responds by either making extra cells or decreasing the number of cells. And he started to realize there is absolute brilliance in our bodies, and that the medical model is not seeing any of the brilliance. The medical model is simply saying, oh, well, there's something wrong with you, and we have to fight it because this is obviously a disease. And that's really, truly not what's happening to any of us. And on my own personal journey, I didn't know any of this when I was facing my cancer scenario. But what I did was every day I sat in the question, what do I need to know about this in order for it to change? And I meditated on that question every single day until one day I finally got my thinker to quiet enough that the doorway just opened up, And the information dropped right in, and it was plain as day. It was like, hey, Lisa, your body is not being attacked by some killer disease. Your body's doing exactly what it's designed to do. And if you just trust your body, it will heal itself. And it was completely obvious to me in that moment that cancer was an illusion, because I was so afraid of this thing that was coming to attack me that my fear was keeping that whole system off balance. And as soon as I realized that cancer isn't really a thing, then that whole idea went out the window. And I just started trusting my body. I started realizing my body is actually on my side. My body is trying to help me. And then I started to trust my body, and I started to learn to love my body again instead of resenting it for doing this thing to me. And and my entire world changed in that moment.
And so in your book, do you offer like ways that people can step into this for themselves? Like I'm just guessing that I had some journeys with my body and with some things that I wanted to shift as well. And I realized that those things that were happening in my body were they were there to help me through a spiritual lesson.
Mhm.
And that as I deepened into what that condition of the body raised up in me emotionally about myself and the judgments that I held about myself and the feelings I held about myself, then as I faced those, then it started clearing up and it started releasing. And it hasn't really been a part of my life for a while now. And so, what kind of things, like, is that kind of what you suggest for people, like to kind of do this inner inquiry, this checking in with your body and going through healing and making conscious choices about what you're going to release and what you're going to expand, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and really it's all about us being able to shift our consciousness and to start looking from a different perspective. We've all been kind of herded into specific ways of looking at things. And those ways of looking at things, these are rules that we're taught. And when we are looking through that specific lens, that's the only thing that we can see. So we're taught to look through the medical model lens, like, oh, something's wrong with my body. Let me go to the expert. Let me find out what's wrong with my body, and let me find out what pill there is to fix this. Well, when I decided not to look through that lens, I was a little scared because I didn't know which lens to look through. But once I started to just do some self inquiry and think, well, what do I know 100%? Like, without any other person telling me, like, what do I actually know about this situation? And I just started to write down, well, like, I know for certain that my emotions are way off balance, that my body is off balance because I'm off balance. Like, that was completely obvious to me, and then I started to think, well, if I was the only person on this planet, how would I go about rebalancing my body? And I thought, well, I would need to be in nature, and I would need to just be living in harmony with the world around me, and that my body would heal. And, I just started to look, and I was like, well, this is like really clear to me. Like, this is truth. This is obvious to me. And so I just started to dig deep and find out what's really true. Like, what do I really truly know beyond all belief about my situation. And, as with every little truth that I discovered, it was like I was just kind of shifting my lens. And at at that point where it was like the big aha moment, it was like, oh, everything we're told is true is actually not true. It's not true at all. We're not being attacked by diseases. And, from my perspective, I realized the medical model is really not here helping us. It's the medical model is really all about money. It's a huge business. And the only reason it's such a huge, thriving business is because it has so many people participating in it. And I realize that it will never tell us the truth, because if we all know how to heal our own bodies, there won't be a medical system the way it currently is. So it's up to each one of us to really learn the truth about what's happening to our bodies.
Yeah. And I mean, the medical model is there to also support you through living in such a way that is not conducive to you having natural health and wellness. So our whole system is skewed towards behaviors and ways of being that put us out of harmony with our souls and with nature, which then cause that, that sort of seeming disease sort of thing. But it's really just being out of harmony, out of balance, out of alignment, out of connectivity. Right. And we know that most people live from like chin up. Right. So like only in the head, not even able to quiet down long enough. Like you were saying, the mental chatter, the metote. That's what the Toltec call it, the metote. It's that mental chatter. It's the rock concert in your head. And if you can't get quiet enough, you don't hear the quiet voice, and the quiet voice is there, the one that's telling you, hey, by the way, you like it in nature. Go spend some more time out there. You'll feel better. Okay. Really easy, right? Just go sit by a lake and do nothing for a little while, which is completely against what our society tells us we must be doing. We must be productive at all times.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we are human beings, not human doings. And, when we start to really step our consciousness out farther and look from a universal perspective, and this is kind of goes back to what I knew when I was a very, very little girl. I had these awarenesses when I was 2 years old. And I had an experience of just being one with all that is. I was in this space of unconditional love and light. And I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that that space is forever and eternally there. And that is where we all come from. And that space is what everyone calls God. And from that space, I could turn around and I could look at Earth, and I could see that there was something terribly, terribly wrong. that we were not living in harmony with this space. And that, I could see all of the fighting and all of the disease. And I could see that the planet was set up as basically a soul prison to just capture us and make us work and work and work. And it never made any sense to me why that was. And it was really, it was a dilemma for me to try to fit into this world that I knew was not the way it was supposed to be. So that was kind of the root of all of my internal strife throughout my life, and it kind of stayed that way until I was able to expand my consciousness out far enough to see that, well, this is designed as a paradise, but there has been a fall of consciousness and we have fallen out of our original design. And then I was able to see this, we are here now as the bringers of light to help start to restore the architecture of consciousness that has fallen and distorted. And the reason we have all of these problems on the planet is because that beautiful, pristine architecture has fallen and distorted. And so we're all looking through these distorted lenses.
Yeah. And that's kind of like because of the power of choice. And the choice is sacred, so we've been gifted this choice of what we wish to believe, what we wish to, perceive, what we want to do, how we want to live our lives. Like we're each given that choice. And yeah, because we have free will and we have choice, We can choose to be completely incongruent with our source. We can choose to be a journey that is opposite from our true nature. And we can choose to experience that. And there's lots of people on the planet who are currently still choosing to experience that opposite of our nature experience, which is quite discordant. And there's those of us who have said, we're done with that experiment and we would like to go back to experiencing ourselves as we are in our true essential nature. And that will bring us to what what you've experienced, which is self-healing and alignment and harmony and peace. But those are all things that have to be chosen, right? Because life doesn't stop. We're not like in a vacuum, right? So right alongside Lisa choosing peace and wellness and health and harmony are other people choosing discordant behavior and deception and all those other things, which are really hard to be around, right? I mean, we're not in a vacuum. So all of us are walking around like my choice is peace, but I might be right next to somebody who's choosing war, And so, and right before we got on the call, I was telling Lisa, this is kind of like the crows and the eagles conversation, that I've been hearing a lot of lately. A lot of people bringing up this conversation, a lot of light workers bringing up this conversation to remind us all. Yeah, the crows will peck and peck and peck and peck and peck at the eagle's neck, just trying to throw it off its course, just trying to make it react. And the eagle just flies higher because the eagle knows that if I just fly high enough, the crow will basically asphyxiate and drop off and die. And so if I just keep flying higher, at some point that crow cannot handle the altitude. And that's kind of, for us for New Earth, I think that's good medicine. It's like, don't believe the group think, keep flying higher. The crows are going to keep pecking. That's part of the equation. Don't let it get to you. I'm talking to myself right now too, everybody, because seriously, it's been quite the journey. Yeah, because it's nonsensical. It's like, why would anybody choose to create disharmony, which is going to end up creating, this experience of disease? Why would anybody choose that? But then I've been guided by my inner guidance, like choice is sacred. So don't judge people's choices. Just what do you choose? I choose peace. I choose wellness. I choose health.
Exactly. We start to see that, it's this, the darkness and the light. In the beginning there was light, and then during this free will experiment, the darkness was introduced and given free will, and people can choose the light or the dark. And the darkness has been in charge on this planet for a very, very long time. And when we're told that these are the rules and you have to follow the rules, and if you don't follow the rules we're going to punish you, and it kind of limits our choices. We try to choose to what's going to keep us safe, but now we're starting to see that we do actually have more choice than we thought. And it is our choice when we start to open our awareness back up and start shining our light. And the more we can shine our light, the more we can be in our own authenticity and be able to stand in our own power. Then the more our light shines, the more the darkness just falls off, like the crow and the eagle.
Yeah, and it's actually the practice of non-doing. Non-doing in the outer world, non-engagement with the crow, and non-doing in sense of like not fixing it in the outer world, but simply like, as like coming inside, getting aligned, boosting your light, boosting your frequency, making your own intentions clear, aligning yourself with those clear intentions, clearing any mental chatter of your own, right? So you get really, really clear and focused on your intent. And then once you know that you're setting your intent as a conscious co-creator, as a sovereign being, that's just that. I mean, anything that tries to counter that is going to create karma for itself because you've decided what your truth is.
We are body, mind, and soul, and we have been given everything we need to keep ourselves healthy and happy and thriving by living in harmony with the divine. And as soon as we start making choices that are out of harmony with the divine, we simply suffer. because, not because we're being punished, but simply because we're out of harmony with it. So if you choose to go left on a one-way street that's going right, you're gonna experience some discord. Like, it's just how it is.
Yeah. And that's why aligning to your true essential self and listening for that guidance, and being really, really crystal clear, that's like the highest, form of sovereignty and co-creation you can have, because you do have the right to choose. And then, others who are choosing something out of harmony are going to get their own sort of consequence, right? It's not a punishment, like you said. It's like a universal law consequence. Yeah, you're going out of harmony with the universe. You're going out of harmony with this. You're intentionally doing it. Cool. You're going to see what happens. But I don't need to get involved with that decision if it's not, that's not my decision. And I'm just sort of sacred witnessing it. And I think we're doing it a lot on the planet right now, sacred witnessing people's choices to go out of harmony with love, out of harmony with nature, and just sitting back going, wow, that's a difficult choice that people are making. And so how do you, one last question I just wanted to ask is, what do you recommend for people who are very sensitive, right? Very, very sensitive, energetic, empath beings who can definitely feel the discordant energies, right? Can definitely feel the emotional energies being created by choices to be discordant. And like, what do you recommend for people as a way to safeguard their own peace? Because really, we don't have control over the choices other people choose to make. We only have control over our own choice and then how we respond to that. So, what do you recommend?
Well, everything is energy, and we all have the ability to sense energy. But the majority of the energy on the planet that we notice is like the really loud energy that says you gotta do this and you gotta follow the rules, and look at all this death and devastation over here, and look at all of this, and like it's overwhelming our senses. But if we really dive in and we notice when we're feeling really, really uncomfortable, that's our body letting us know that something is out of alignment here, big time. And we've all just been taught, like, oh, let me go run away from that. Let me avoid that. But if we start to learn the difference between the subtle energy realms, the peace and the ease and the comfort and the love, and the gross energies of death and destruction and danger, danger, Will Robinson. When we start to discern the difference between those things, we can retune our internal GPS to start to tune in to those subtler energy realms, where we can notice when the things are off balance and in our face, and realize that that's not for us. Like, this is a stop sign. It's like, don't go this direction. And we start to, instead of, it's basically the stop sign that says, don't go out there in the world. Stop focusing out there on all of the messages that are purposely being placed in front of us, and start tuning in. Because inside, this is where we connect to the divine. This is where we connect to our soul, is inside. The soul isn't out there somewhere. The soul is inside. And when we tune into our soul, that's the part of us that is directly interconnected with God's source universe. And it's that part that when we operate from that part of our being, we operate in harmony with all that is. But when we're operating from our mental programming and we're trying to live just in our mind and try to figure it out and how am I going to do this? That's where we suffer. So I talk about, stepping out of the mind and into the soul and start to notice those energies. And when the energy is really rough, it's like that's the sign, that's the body letting us know you're looking in the wrong direction. You're focused outside. Turn around and focus inside. Because this is where all the strength, all the power, all the answers, all the love is inside. It's not out there.
And I know that this is part of your teaching as well, because sometimes when people turn inwards, there's a lot of pain they've got to feel, right? Because if they haven't spent a lot of time inside for a long time, then the pain is built up. It has gone unacknowledged, it has gone unwitnessed. And so there is like this period of time where we've got to feel the pain, right? We've got to actually feel it to heal it.
Absolutely. We have to notice it. And, we have to also realize that we have been taught to carry pain. We have been taught that life is difficult and, you can't always get what you want. And, all of these things, it's better to give than to receive. And, you know, it, and, you know, we've never been taught how to resolve these issues. We've never been taught how to clear energy. We've never been taught how to release trauma. So we just carry it around because we don't really know what to do with it. So, since the time we've been little children, you know, we've never been seen for the grand beings of light we are. Little children are just thought to be completely empty and that, we need to fill them with all the knowledge and show them how the world works because they don't know a single thing. Well, that's not really true. you know and so from we've experienced all kinds of traumas as children, and as children we don't know what to do with that. When we're scolded for trying to do something beautiful for our mom, we go out and we pick her a beautiful bouquet of flowers and then we bring them to mom and she goes, "You destroyed my garden." It's like, what do you do with that as a child? So we carry all of that stuff inside. And then we start to realize, I'm a bad kid. Like I did something wrong, and then we start shaming ourselves. And it just becomes this vicious pattern. But when we start to realize, wait a second, there are ways that we can easily start clearing these things out. We don't have to carry this. It was never our fault. We never did something wrong. Our intentions have always been pure. And we start to realize, oh, that was somebody else. That was their stuff that they dumped on us, or, that we bumped up against their traumas and activated that. So we can start to, there are ways to just release these things where we don't have to relive them and we don't have to go through the trauma and drama again. We can simply recognize it and learn to release it. And there are so many ways to release these traumatic things that we've been carrying. Sometimes we've been carrying them for generations. We're repeating when we're incubating in our mom's belly. Well, she incubated in her mom's belly and her mom incubated in her mom's belly, and all of these patterns get absorbed through the subtle energies into the layers of our DNA, the non-physical layers of our DNA. And then we're given the opportunity to resolve those patterns. So we start to look, where did this pattern come from? Why do I keep attracting the person who's going to betray me? Well, it's because they betrayed my mom. I watched that happen in the relationship. And, then and we start to realize, oh, wait a second. I don't have to keep repeating these patterns. I can resolve these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're at the time when we have the tools and the knowledge and the skills to to clean up all that history and to bring it to closure and to ask ourselves, well, what do I want to create? What do I choose in the vacuum of what has been before, having been cleared? What do I want to bring forward? What do I want to experience right now? And what do I want to bring forward into the next part of my journey?
Exactly. And one of the most powerful questions is, how do I want to feel? And we think that if our body doesn't feel comfortable, that if we've got pain in our physical body, that that we don't have the ability to feel good. Like, oh, I feel a lot of pain today. I feel bad. Well, we actually have the ability to feel good. We actually have the ability to feel peaceful, calm, and happy, even if our body has some aches or pains or, you know, so we have to start to recognize that, kind of our body is following us. And if we are using our physical surroundings or our physical body to feel bad, you know, looking out at the traumas and dramas of the world. Well, oh no, this thing happened out there in the world, so I can't feel good. I feel afraid. Well, you know, we have the ability to clear that out. We have the ability to choose to feel peaceful, calm, and happy despite what's going on in the world. Because what's going on in the world is literally a reflection of what's going on inside us. So we end all of the trauma and drama in the world by ending it in us first.
Yeah, powerful. We end all the drama and trauma in the world by ending it in ourselves first, people. You heard it from Lisa's mouth. So thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I just felt delightful to be able to celebrate you and your wisdom and your journey, your powerful journey of self-healing and your sharing of all of your wisdom in your book, The Simplicity of Self-Healing. And I also know that you're in the Inside Effects movie. I'm going to place the link in the show notes so people can go check that out too. It's really worth it. I know several people in that documentary, so it's really good one. And is there any last thing you want to leave people with on your way out? Any last little bit of wisdom or encouragement?
Yeah, we are all angels in human form, grand beings of light. We are creator beings who have been taught that we have to follow the rules and do what we're told. And this isn't true. And we have the ability to bring ourselves back into alignment, bringing body, mind, and soul back into oneness. And we are each the only one who can do that for ourselves. Nobody else can do that for us. But as long as we keep looking to have other people fix it for us, we're going to remain victims of our own lives. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to be victims of anything. We are grand creator beings, and we have the ability to create heaven on earth. And creating heaven on earth means restoring our own architecture of consciousness, to restore our light body so that we restore body, mind, and soul, bringing it back into one so that we can feel good no matter what. And when we feel good no matter what, our bodies start feeling good no matter what.
Oh, I love that. Great advice. I can even take that advice myself in this last 4 months in my house. So awesome. Really great. Thank you so much. And I just want to encourage everybody, please go check out Lisa's book, The Simplicity of Self-Healing. Go get a copy. Go check out the Inside Effects movie. Go get connected with Lisa at all the links in the show notes and just follow this woman. She's amazing. Love her very much. And yeah, and I look forward to seeing all of you guys next week. So we like to give kisses at the end. I don't know if you want to join me, but I like to give little Reiki kisses out there for everybody. So here they come, everyone. Mwah. Yay! Love you guys. See you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.
Thanks, Carrie.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awakener, the Soul Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar from the source of who you are.